welcome you to Inovare. Yeah, this is where we innovate. This is the podcast where changes are made. If you're not growing, then you're dying. Innovation is the key to surviving. This is Inovare, where we ain't scared to make that change and create a new way. If you're ready to learn and sit back and just chill, it's about to get real. This is Inovare.
What's up, guys, and welcome into another episode of the Inovare podcast. I'm Roy Edwards. I am your host for the next 30 to 45 minutes. And this week we got a great guest in. You've probably seen him all over the Food Network on Hell's Kitchen, which I know, if you're like me, makes you extremely hungry. And you just sit there and you just eat your pizza and you drink your beer and you watch these incredible chefs. And feel great about yourself, and then feel inspired somehow, and then you go to the kitchen and you burn your ramen noodles. But I digress. So, hailing all the way from Pennsylvania's capital, Drew Tingley is here to bring you a taste of something new. 15 years of experience in the culinary world, training with top chefs. He's won many awards. Drew offers you a professional experience in any way that he can. From catering, consulting, private chef services. Like I said, he is on the latest season of Hell's Kitchen. Welcome into the Inovare podcast, Drew Tingley. What is up, my man? How are you?
Well, I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, dude, I'm pumped to have you on. Like I mentioned, I am a big fan of the Food Network. It's one of my favorite things to watch, and I'm a terrible chef. I've realized this thanks to people like you, who I watch on TV. That you guys are like, you know, and then out comes this majesty of a sandwich. Meanwhile, I'm not kidding when I say that I burn my ramen noodles. It's just something that, so like, before we get into your backstory, because I want to get into where you come from, but like, what prompted you to become a chef? And I assume I assume that like you weren't just like 4 or 5 years old whipping up mac and cheese, or maybe you were, and maybe it's just something you're born with and I'm not. But what is the story of Drew the chef?
You know, it's funny that you just said that at the end, because that's where it starts. Right. I was very young, and I was always intrigued by food. Food, you know, is love. Food is so, it's delicious. The sensations involved in taste and smell, you know, they can evoke memories. There's just so much that's involved around food, you know, sharing it with the ones that you love, breaking bread with other people. You know, it's a really awesome thing. So I was always perplexed by food, and it was a passion of mine. I mean, I still was heavily involved in sports growing up. I read a lot of books, comics, video games, but food, just always something that intrigued me. I was always in the kitchen, cooking lunch, when we were home, wanting to cook desserts, wanting to cook dinner. It just, something about food always spoke to me. And the ability to take those ingredients and then you have nothing, and then you turn them into something, that's just a different form of art. And you can really share yourself on a plate. And that's just, all of those things really just drove me into wanting to become a chef. And my uncle was a professional chef. He graduated from the CIA. My cousin's a professional chef. He graduated from the CIA. And you have some, I mean, food's been a huge part of my family and culture my whole life.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you grew up around chefs. So when you were growing up and cooking, were you given like recipe books to follow, or did you more? Because I do have a couple friends who are chefs. We were talking about this before the show, and there's drastically different paths that they take. One is like, I had recipes passed down from me from family members and recipe books and like stuff like that, and they follow that path. And the other path is like, I liked the way this tasted, and so I experimented with it, you know? And so was there like a particular path that you went down like that, having chefs in the family?
Both of those, actually, you know, from recipes to baking, of course. And then like there's some recipes that we have in our family that passed down. They've evolved since then, and then a lot of it was trial and error, you know, just, hey, I smell this and I want to see what this does, or this tastes like this. We should put these together and see what happens. You know, it's a lot of trial and error. You say that you watch us do all these magnificent things, but I'm telling you, we've burnt ramen noodles just as much as you have. You just don't know about it. We're fast enough to fix it before you see.
Oh man, yeah. I have started to become a better chef, and it's because of watching people like you on TV, which I feel like is a new thing. Like I don't really remember growing up and watching cooking shows. Maybe they were around, but in wanting to become a chef, we've touched on family members, and so was that your key area of kind of like what inspired you to become a chef, or were there outside things that you look to? Because like I said, nowadays I feel like people grow up and they're like, I want to be a chef. I see people doing it. My daughter wants to be a chef, and so like I show her. I'm like, hey, look,
Awesome.
like she does like Instagram stories with my wife and being like, she's 4, so they're
Awesome.
not real food, but she's the most wonderful chef in the world. She'll be on all the food networks in about a couple months, I'm sure. But you know what I mean? Like she loves to put on a show and loves food, but she sees people like you who are doing these things where when we were growing up, I don't know if that was necessarily a thing or was it? What did you draw your inspiration from?
A lot of things, really. My mother, my father, they all food was just so huge in our family. Like it's in our family. It's our family creed. You don't have to be hungry to eat.
Yeah.
We events, everything. We do it with a lot of love. It's just a lot of that inspired me. And then growing up, we did actually watch some cooking shows. It's funny. I grew up watching Hell's Kitchen on Fox, and I remember thinking I want to be on that show. Maybe I could do that one day. And that was just me when I was like, I don't know, 14 years old. And you grow up and you watch a lot of that stuff too. I mean, the Food Network evolved, and you had a lot of those great chefs on there too. A lot of these other shows are starting to happen a little more. The birth of the internet, social media. So now you're having a lot more of these connections that are able to be made. I mean, it's honestly, it's a beautiful time to be in, because the wealth of information that now exists from professional chefs that are out there. You can learn so much. You can go to YouTube and you can click on, a 2-minute video, and you can pretty much learn anything. It's a great time to be there. But I think that's a lot of what inspired me, seeing all of that and just thinking, I want to go into that career. I want to be able to cook all these things. I want to learn so much more about other cultures, why their food is the way that it is, what makes it special, what makes it unique. That's because you learn a lot about people just in the food that they eat.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that leads into, well, at what point did you realize that it could become a business and more than just like a passion for food? Because I do know people who love to cook, but are accountants or whatever. So at what point in your life where you were like, this is what I want to do for a living?
Honestly, right out of high school, I got offered a job in a kitchen. I had offers to play football in college. I said, you know what? I want to get this hands-on experience. So I took it, thinking that I could then go to culinary school. And that's really when it started sinking into me. And then just working in these professional restaurants, and not only working in them, but then progressing and growing. And I was young, and then I'm a sous chef at the age of 20 years old. And I realized, there's growth here. There's potential. It's not just about the ability to cook. It's the ability to do so much more that makes it special. The ability to manage people, the ability to do inventory, the ability to ordering, because that's, it's a lot of money that you're playing with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all those things, all those variables fascinated me. And I was like, this can be a very lucrative career if I stick to it and I train myself and I study hard. I work my ass off. I could definitely get there.
Yeah. Which leads to going out on your own. And so you were a sous chef at a young age. At what point were you like, I want to do the private chef world. I want to become a solopreneur. I want to go out on my own, take that leap.
Well, this real leap is just starting to happen for me in building this. It's been about a couple years coming. I work currently for an amazing executive chef where I live, and I love working with them. But there are also other areas that I want to evolve my own brand in, and taking these ventures because the potential is there. And not only that, but because of COVID, everything in the restaurant industry has changed. And the dream of brick and mortar isn't necessarily something that could potentially, it can be sustainable. And that's something that was very shocking that we learned through COVID. You think that this industry is infallible. It's always going to be there. People always want to eat. They pay for that ambiance. But with the rise of all these private chefs and more collective, there's just so much more potential to reach different targets, and more people are paying for the convenience. It's that convenience of staying in your home, but still achieving that 5-star dining experience without actually having to leave is so much more, what's the best word to look for? It's so much more sexy to people, you know what I mean, to want to do these things. So seeing all of these things and the way that the world's changing, the market's changing, those are the times where you need to start reevaluating where you're going in your career and how you want to invest your time.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like 2020 caused a lot of people to there's a pivot, I feel like, is like the overused word of the last year, right? Everybody's pivoting somehow, right?
Pivot.
Ross, you get Ross pivoting down the steps with his little couch, right? Pivot!
Pivot! You have to pivot.
So, but like in reality, like we all had to change. That's actually where this podcast, in its current form, comes from, is innovating, right? You have to change. I always tell my kids this, right? The only constant is change. Things are going to change. You're going to have to evolve. And if you think that you can do the same thing over and over and over and over again, then, good luck, and so coming out of March it's almost been a year now, which is crazy.
Right.
Coming out of that, it's wild. It is so wild. Coming out of that in the restaurant industry, you had mentioned that you saw a lot change. And so at what point at COVID did you know, man, I gotta pivot, to use Ross's word, right? I have to do something here, because who knows when the restaurant industry is going to go back to popping bottles on a Monday night. You know what I mean? Like who knows when that's going to happen again?
It's probably about a couple of months into it when I started realizing that this could become the new normal consistently. This could become something that we're going to have to deal with where, hey, we're going to go back to work for 3 weeks, and then we're not going to go back to work for 3 weeks. And you're just going to have to deal with that. And just, like I said, COVID changed everything. And in doing so, realizing that I had this great big secret, Hell's Kitchen was just starting to air. I know that it's amping up. They're sending us emails saying, hey, get ready, where we're going to start promoting soon. We're going to start airing soon. And I knew that I needed to get behind this while the ball was rolling and strike all the irons hot. That's just all these things that happened. Being on Hell's Kitchen was an amazing experience. Outside of becoming a father, outside of meeting my fiance, is the best experience in my life. And the people that I met, the networking that I now have access to because of it is unbelievable. So with that happening, it only makes sense that you start looking into your own brand. I see my fellow contestants, and they're all growing their own brand. They're doing it well. And that's when you need to start thinking to yourself, hey, you took the chance and you made it. You beat out thousands of other chefs. You stood on that stage with them. They're all growing. It's time to start reevaluating things and seeing what's out there for yourself, because there's a market for it. People seem to love you. People love your food. You've won awards. Start investing in yourself. Start believing that you can do these things.
Yeah. So what's the process of getting on Hell's Kitchen like? And we're going to get into a couple topics here around that, but the process of going on, I don't know if you're even allowed to talk about this. So I didn't pre-vet you to be like, hey, what's the secret to getting on Food Network? I almost said HGTV. You can see with the things that I watch, right? How to make my bathroom more aesthetically pleasing, and then how to eat in it. So, yeah, I mean, like, what's that process like? And at what point were you like, I'm going to go after it? You said that when you were little, you wanted to be on it, and I assume that carried through to your career as well.
Absolutely. The process is a little nerve-wracking. I remember a friend of mine had just had his episode of Guys Grocery Games as a rerun air, and I was talking to him. He's a good friend of mine, Jeremy Mathis, and he told me that, he went out and he did it, and I always thought to myself, he did it. Why can't I? I always had these dreams of wanting to do Hell's Kitchen. And then I talked to a couple local people, and they were saying the same thing. Go out there and try it. One of them had tried out for American Idol, and she really was saying, just invest in yourself, push for it. And I said, you know what? Let's give it a shot. And then just so happens, a couple days later on Facebook, and a Facebook group that I'm in, a chef group, which it's so awesome to see the networking that happens there. I saw a casting call, and I said, you know what? Let's go for it. See what happens. So I sent them my stuff, and I got an email back, and we started exchanging emails and phone numbers and text messages and stuff. And we set up some interviews, and there's a lot to take in. You have to do a couple of Skype interviews, and then if they like you, then you fly out to Los Angeles, and we spent a weekend there. Yeah, a weekend. And then you just meet a bunch of producers and TV executives, and you're selling yourself to them. You're trying to explain to them why you make sense out of the thousands of people that they're interviewing, why you're the one that should be here, and what you bring to the table to be able to become the next executive chef for Chef Gordon Ramsay. So it's a lot of a pitch. And then, there's tons of videos that you have to take, tons of pictures. The paperwork is never ending. Honestly, at one point I remember thinking to myself, I don't want to keep doing this anymore, because this is so, it was just so overwhelming. And then I said, you know what? No, don't. You went this far. They like you. Push a little further and let's see what happens. And then, you come back from LA, and it's just, if we like you, we'll call you. And then that's the uncertainty waiting. Just sit there by the phone, like, do something. Call me.
Yeah. And so we had talked about this before the show set in. As an entrepreneur, I believe anybody out there is listening to, even if you're not an entrepreneur, imposter syndrome starts to creep in at certain points where you're like, can I do this? It's that little, some people call it, there's an entrepreneur that I follow. His name's Andy Frisella. He calls it your bitch voice. You have the bitch voice in the back of your head, right? That creeps in. They're like, you're not big enough. You're not strong enough. You're not fast enough. You're not smart enough. You're not insert whatever here. And when you're going on a national stage like that, how much of that, and then how much, you had just talked about overcoming it to a point, but like, how did you deal with that, and what kept you motivated? What kept you pushing on?
A lot of motivation lies in my children and my fiance back home. Just wanting to, and not only them too, but just the people that were back home. I come from a small town, and to be on this national stage, to be able to have the opportunity to represent, was just amazing to have that. It was such a motivating factor. You're out there and you're showing these people, listen, I come from humble beginnings. I went to culinary school, but I never finished. I dropped out because I couldn't do my internship because I worked too many hours as is. Full-time college student, working a full-time job as well. There's just, and then I have to work a third full-time job. It's like, this can't happen. So it's just nice to be able to show to these people and have that motivation to keep you going forward. Like, hey, you guys want to get here, you can get here. You have to believe in yourself. At some point in time, you have to understand that you got there for a reason. You have to start understanding that you have value. It's not being cocky, and some people might come off as it. It's, you have to have the confidence in yourself. Believe in yourself. If you truly believe in yourself, you can get there. And there are some things you can't fake. You can't fake work ethic. You have to put that time in. And if you put that time in, it's possible. Anything's possible. And that was really just what drove me to be on that national stage. Just to show these people that, hey, listen, we're all here. We can all be impactful in one way or another if you start believing that you can.
Oh, yeah. And so being from a small town, so I'm not from a small town. I'll say that first. I was born in Washington, D.C., and
oh, wow.
I'm about 9 miles south of D.C. Is where I was raised, in right outside of Arlington, Virginia.
Really? Are you?
Mm-hmm.
Huh, you're right by one of my contestants, Declan. He's a really awesome guy.
Oh, yeah.
He's also, listen, I think you guys should have a conversation at some point, because Declan's a good guy. He's actually growing his own brand, and it's huge. He's launching his barbecue sauce. It's going to be sold in grocery stores all up down the Eastern Seaboard. He's got a private consulting. He's got so much going on. Declan's he's an awesome guy.
I love barbecue. So I got a Traeger this spring, right before, was it last year? I think it was last year, actually. Maybe it was last year. I don't know. I got a Traeger, and it's my favorite thing on the planet. all of a sudden I feel like I am like a better chef, and I don't know if I'm actually better, but I just like carry myself a little. I'm like, look at this, like I got a Traeger, like throw some hickory wood on it today, like.
Yes, sir.
So I've grown to appreciate barbecue and smoking, and I was gonna ask you this later on in the show, but since barbecue got brought up, which is like one of my favorite things, what is what is that your favorite food?
One of my absolute favorites. Are you kidding me? Just the idea behind barbecue is so incredible. Because what are you really doing? You're taking the certain woods and you're creating a perfume of smoke that penetrates all of this meat. And then not only that, but then you're doing this low and slow process. You're breaking down muscle tissue, you're breaking down fats, you're breaking down proteins, and you're just creating this super tender, delicious piece of food. Barbecue is unreal. There's nothing like smoking meat. There's nothing like it. There just really isn't.
It's my favorite thing to do. As soon as it gets a little bit of warm, and it's snowing here, and now we're in February, but I still fire up the Traeger, and not like I would on like a 12, 14 hour type of smoking of something, but I anytime that I can get a behind the Traeger, anytime that I can smoke anything, I'm all about it. So is there something in particular that you like to, like, what would be your favorite thing? Like, I'm a big pork butt guy. Like, my wife got me those like claw rip apart thingies for Christmas, and it changed my life. So like, what's your favorite thing to barbecue? You there, Drew? Do I got you?
Well, dude, there's
Are you there? Oh.
Probably wings. I'm trying to think. Probably wings. I love wings. Wings are just, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now. Sorry about that. We broke up there for a second.
Here.
Yeah, that was we're good now, I think. So yeah, wings.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Holy cow. It's playing catch up.
You there? Uh-oh. Hey, buddy. Drew? Hey, Drew?
Yeah, I'm here. But
all right, cool. Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now, I think.
Can you hear me now?
So, you mentioned wings. That's your go-to?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I don't know if you can hear me.
I got you good, man.
This is
shit.
I can see you, but I don't.
Fuck.
Yeah, it's really choppy on my end here.
Yeah, I got you though. I think.
Yeah.
All right. Can we hear it? Can you hear me? Hopefully you got me.
There we go.
Is this better? I'm trying to.
Seems like it's better.
I'm trying to close as many programs as possible to make this. It looks like my computer's overloaded. I just got a new computer, and this is my old one.
Closing all my stuff too here.
Let's see. Hopefully this is better. You got me? The beauty of editing. Can you hear me, Drew?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, cool. All right, so I'm just going to ask that question again, and I'm going to chop this up and edit it out.
All right.
All right. Ready? Are we, like, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you all right.
All right, cool. All right, so what is your favorite thing to barbecue when it comes to getting on the grill?
Oh, it has to be wings. Wings are like one of my all-time favorite foods, and there's just something about a good smoked wing. You get a nice crispy skin on the outside. If you have the right rub. It's nice and salty and savory. Baste it in hot sauce, barbecue sauce, whatever you like. It's just something about a good smoked wing just hits home.
Yeah, dude, I love wings. I have a little bit of a stomach thing where I can't take in the hot sauce, even though I love a good hot sauce. It's probably my favorite thing.
That's sad.
I know it's
Same.
it's a tragic story. It really is. But I still love wings nonetheless. I love being on the grill. It's there's nothing better than a spring day. You fire up the grill, get the smoke going. You open up the grill grate and it just hits you in the face. That's my favorite thing, man. It's so great.
I'm all for it.
So being from a small town, you had mentioned being from a small town. And so, like I said, I'm not from a small town, and I didn't grow up with as many small businesses. Like we went down this. Now I feel like there's more restaurants starting to pop up, or there were prior to 2020. There were more small businesses, and you had that rally around the small businesses, right? I enjoy that, and it's there a little bit. But my wife is from a small town, which is the first time that I've gotten really introduced to what a true small town is like, where you walk into a store and they know your name kind of a thing. And you being from a small town, did that help with your journeys of entrepreneurship and your support circles? You had mentioned being in Facebook groups as well. Did being from a small town, did that help you in certain aspects?
It gives you a deeper seated appreciation of what it is to be a small business. It really does. And it also helps teach you those dynamics. I'm a firm believer that you should take away something from every experience in life, whether it's positive, whether it's negative. All information is good information. Anytime that there could be growth, whether it be from positive or negative, that's just something you have to be able to learn from. And that's very crucial and important. The smaller businesses in smaller towns, they show you that dynamic. Just like you said, they make you feel at home, and it's a good feeling. When you go in and you're made to feel personal. That's why the hospitality industry is so special. You're paying for obviously the food, but the ambiance too. You go in and you feel important because they recognize you by name and they make you feel like you're at home. It's a good feeling.
Yeah.
So I think that, growing up in these small towns, it really did help me understand a lot more of those dynamics of the business aspects.
Yeah, understanding that just saying hi to somebody goes a long way. I feel like that's lost in today's people who are doing business. Sometimes they lose the human aspect of it. We're in a world now where it's a lot of automation, and which my business specializes in automation. But I always tell people that automation shouldn't replace human. It should be there to enhance human interaction. Like, it shouldn't be you send this automation so that you don't have to communicate with your customer or client. Like, it shouldn't be that. It should be an automation to help remind you to do certain things or whatever. And I feel like that human element is lost in a lot of businesses these days. And those who understand that, and being from the hospitality industry, how important it is. Like, when a chef comes out to talk to a table, I feel like that's the coolest thing. It's like you just ate this amazing food. You just had this experience, this ambiance, the greeters and everything. And then the chef comes out and is like, hey, I'm the guy who just put together that. That's one of my favorite things about the hospitality industry. And I feel like coming from the hospitality industry and from the restaurant business, you understand the importance of human interaction and somebody's experience to food, where they're sitting, a date night, whatever it is. And so taking that and bringing that into your personal brand, how much did understanding the hospitality industry, yes, you're from the hospitality industry and you're still going into being a personal chef, you're still around the food, but the experience of somebody, did you take that into other aspects of your business?
Oh, absolutely. Restaurants teach you so much. They really do. I'm a firm believer everybody should spend at least a year in a restaurant. You don't realize how much there is to take away from it. how much growth there is in there. It's not just about cooking food. It's about so much more. Anybody can be a great cook. It doesn't, it does take a lot of training, but anybody can be a really good cook. It's about being able to bring all those pieces together. All those cogs need to run in this fashion that makes the machine, the greater whole, work. And that's what's important. And I think that understanding these businesses and working so closely with those aspects has definitely provided a lot of education in, a lot of stuff that you would pay thousands for to go to school to learn. And being so close to it, you get your hands-on experience and you get to learn about these things. You get to understand what it is to have like your tax ID number. You get to understand what it is to go into your own LLC. And, you take away a lot from these things. You can't put a price on the education you learn from hands-on experience. You really can't. And I think it was Mike Rowe, he says it best too. He says, learning trades and stuff like that, it's a great thing to do, because there is always going to be a need now, whether it be in the way that it was 20 years ago, it remains to be seen, but it'll be a need, it'll evolve, and you'll be somewhere different, but it'll still be that basic inner need that you worked with. So.
Yeah. Dude, I'm so glad that you said that you believe that everybody should enter into the restaurant business or do a year in the restaurant. I've told my kids that for as long as I can remember. So I was a server out of college. That was one of the first jobs that I had. I was a server, and served for a couple different restaurants around the area. And the amount of lessons that I learned from waiting tables, from teamwork to details matter, from just communication and the interactions that you have with one another, just introducing yourself, the way that you carry yourself, everything about the restaurant industry and just the presentation, So one thing that I still do that I took from that is presentation in terms of, so for my servers out there and those who have been through the restaurant industry, that when you're giving somebody their plate, the protein is the star, right? Unless things have changed since I've been a server, but the protein was the star, right? When you put a plate down, the protein faces that. Is that still how it is?
That's what you're supposed. I have gripes about the restaurant industry. Unfortunately, I feel as though some people have become a little more entitled in there, and they don't care as much about the actual care. Now, that doesn't happen. Fortunately, a restaurant that I work at, that doesn't even come close to happen. Like I said, our executive chef's phenomenal, and the wait staff that we have is just unbelievable. But that's something that should happen, and you don't realize those little things, those little bits of detail that go from just a good experience, where we'll probably be back to, this was an outstanding experience, and I'm going to come here all the time.
Yeah. That is like a fine line. Like it could be just the tiniest little thing. And that is a huge thing that I learned from the restaurant industry was, getting under and picking things up from underneath the table, getting things from the table. Like, just like if somebody takes their straw out and puts the little thing on the table, grabbing those straw pieces. It's like the little things, the details matter. And I love that you brought that up. I love that you brought up that people should do a year at least. And because I tell my kids that all the time, man. Like, I feel like the lessons learned there are amazing. And so those little details matter lessons. What are some other strategy that you're starting to implement? It could be from your restaurant career or not, but what are some things that you've used in building your personal brand now, breaking away from the brick and mortar?
It's all about the customer service experience. Bottom line, it doesn't matter. You can have a great product. If you can't deliver on the customer service aspect of it, then it doesn't. Then you have a great product, and you can't deliver in 100% totality. And that's what I've really taken away from this, is just understanding your customer base, understanding what it is that they want, and also understanding what the market is. You have to be something different, because you can obviously go to 100 different restaurants and it's all pretty much the same thing, but what do you do that's different? What do you offer that's unique that I can't get from A, B, C, or D? what makes this something that's special. And that's other, like, just the way that you can evolve and grow. That's another area that I've taken away from all of this years in the restaurant industry. Like I said, I've been doing this now. It's actually been 18 years. I started when I was 13 years old, as a dishwasher in a pizza shop.
Wow.
Worked fast food restaurants, all sorts of stuff. But I've been doing it for a very long time now, and I've seen it grow from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And, having been there, you get to be up close and personal with it, and you get to learn and understand it. So, yeah, there's a lot to take away from it. Yeah. Absolutely. The restaurant industry has, it's given birth to knowledge needed to implement successful tactics that are crucial and important to growing your own business.
Absolutely. So let's get into, I'm going to run down, I'm going to do a questionnaire for you. And I know I didn't prep you for this before the show, so apologies.
Best way to do it.
Yeah, man. So we're going to go over your favorite foods, and I'm going to give you a this or that. And I need you to just go with your gut, to use a pun there.
No problem.
All right, so first up, we're going to do pizza or tacos.
You might as well just ask me which one was my favorite kid.
That's why this is hard, horrible. Right? Yeah, I know. It's tough.
I guess I would have to say pizza because taco pizza is still technically pizza.
Okay, that is innovative, yes. Right there.
But I want you to know that was really horrible. I hope the rest of these aren't as bad.
Oh
because that was so hard to choose.
I know, nothing like having to choose your favorite child, right? So, all right, so fried fried food or sushi?
Ouch.
I know.
Sushi's amazing, but so is fried food. But sushi's amazing.
I'll try to make them easier.
I'm going to hit the technicality on it. I'm going to go with sushi. I'm going to go with fried food only because some sushi can be fried.
That's good. Good. See, you're getting innovative with these for sure.
I love sushi. Listen, I just want to shout out sushi. I love sushi. I will eat sushi every second of every day. Doesn't matter what time. Sushi is outstanding.
Yes, dude, me too. I will eat sushi any breakfast, lunch, dinner. It doesn't matter. I could be having the worst day, worst stomach ache. I want sushi. That's my favorite. So this might be a layup then. Seafood or Italian food pasta?
Seafood.
Me too, man.
Seafood. Listen, I worked in an Italian restaurant for about 6-7 years. So I love Italian food. Don't get me wrong. I love pizza, strombolis, pasta, all sorts of stuff. But seafood, you can't beat fresh seafood. I mean, we're from the coast. We get it.
Yeah, right. I'm a big crab. I grew up crabbing. So I'm big on crabs, blue crabs, and really any kind of anything that comes out of the sea, I'll eat it. To be God honest with you. I remember eating mussels and clams and stuff like that, and other people would be so weirded out by it. And I'm like, nah, just give it to me.
It's the best.
It's delicious. So
it is. So good. So good. I could literally just sit there and eat mussels I have eaten mussels by the pound, and you don't get full. You don't get full. I don't care what anybody says. You don't get full.
Amazing. So, all right. So, I know these are kind of the same, but would you rather grill or smoke?
Smoke.
Me too. Yeah.
Smoke. Smoke.
And so of all the different, so I'm going to give you a couple areas of food, right? So Mediterranean, Italian, Cuban, or that kind of, Cuban flair, that sort of a thing, or traditional American burgers and ribs and stuff like that. Of that, do you have a particular genre of food that you like more than others? It can be any of the ones that I didn't name, of course.
Oh, I was gonna say if you're asking me to pick from the ones you picked, I'm gonna go Cuban first always, because Cuban food is absolutely and utterly delicious. If you haven't had Cuban food, you need to go have Cuban food, because until you've had it, it's unreal. Honestly, Hispanic style cuisine, I'm fascinated by. absolutely utterly enamored by it. I think that the principles in traditional Hispanic cuisine are just they're amazing. You know, it's all fresh ingredients. It's really centered around fresh proteins. You can't beat that at all. And like that's for me, that's top dog. Always gonna be top dog.
I'm with you, man. I love Cuban food. I grew up. My best friends growing up were Cuban, and anytime that I was able to eat dinner at their house, sometimes I would like play it out right where it was like, I'm gonna like just stay a little bit longer so that I know that I'm infringing on your dinner time, so I can get some bomb Cuban food. So good. Oh my god, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So
rice and peas, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
People don't understand.
They don't know.
No, they don't. You haven't had pork until you've had it made by a Cuban mom in a little kitchen. I'm telling you right now, it just hits different. Can't explain it until you experience it.
Absolutely, man. So, all right, are you a breakfast food guy?
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. Listen. Ron Swanson said it best. I'm a simple man. I like dark-haired women and breakfast foods.
I love the Ron Swanson pool. I love the picture that he has hanging up, where it's just he takes it down when and he just hangs breakfast food at that's like one of my favorite scenes in that whole series. So in breakfast foods, is it waffles or pancakes?
That depends on the mood, because I mean, a nice, delicious, crispy, fresh waffle hot out of the press, can't beat that. But sometimes you just want those. I mean, if I was out for the night, I'll probably want pancakes more, just something to soak up the bad decisions of the night before. But normally, I'll go with waffles just because it's lighter, it's airy. They're crispy, and you don't get as full, but they're still very delicious. Yeah. And you can make waffle sandwiches.
Wow, that's a great pull. I am a big chicken and waffles guy. I do love waffles. I feel like waffles are more versatile. I feel like I could make little pockets of fun in there, you know, in each little guy. Another breakfast food that I was going to throw in there, but it's crepes. I'm a big crepe guy.
He doesn't love crepes.
They're amazing. And you can just throw, there's a place in Ocean City that my wife and family go to, and they'll just throw anything on top of crepes. They're like, you want some crepes? That in itself is breakfast. But we're going to throw like 3 other breakfast things on top of your crepes to make this giant castle of crepes. Love crepes. My favorite thing. Well, man, it's so good, dude. I appreciate you so much for coming on. And so how can people learn more about what you're doing over there? Maybe hire you to just completely blow their minds with some food. And how can they get in touch with you?
So we actually just launched thechefdrew.com. Thanks to large in part, I believe you have a hand in offering the web hosting to that. I really appreciate that as well. Game Plan Digital was a digital marketing firm that I hired. A friend of mine from the small town that I grew up in reached out to me and said, hey, I offer these services. I want to work with you because I believe in giving back into the town that we came from. And quite frankly, that's exactly where I'm at, to be invested into the growth of the towns that you're from. I think it's so crucial to support where you're from. So we launched thechefdrew.com. It has direct links to all of my social media pages, my Instagram and stuff. You can actually request an email. We'll request your email. You sign up there. There's ways you'll be able to reach out to me. Pay attention to the website because it will be growing as we've launched it. There will be offers about what we have coming up in the next couple of months. There's going to be a lot of meet and greets and doing potential shows with other reality TV stars, my fellow Hell's Kitchen chefs as well. Some local TV personalities too. There's a cookbook in the works. A belt line, if you've seen Hell's Kitchen, is 100% in the works. So thechefdrew.com, come check it out. It's pretty nice stuff.
Dude, thank you so much for coming on. And chefdrew.com, guys. Dude, I was on there this morning. I've been going on there about once a day, not only to make sure that it's still up and running and that my hosting is doing what it's supposed to, but because you have some pictures of food on there that I'm like grabbing inspiration from. Is it a panini on there? Is it a panini sandwich? Is that what it is? Some sort of like chickeny, like
No,
press type of thing.
so let me tell you about that. That was awesome. I got this pork tenderloin and I marinated it for 24 hours, and then I just took it and I seared it. Like I did a reverse sear in my oven until it reached about a little bit under medium, like a hair under medium, pulled it out, let it rest. I sliced it paper thin. When I tell you that I could have taken a spoon and sliced this, it was so juicy and tender. So we sliced it paper thin, and I made my version of a Cuban sandwich. It has a nice little crunchy bread there. It has the pickles, the mustard, the mayo, the smoked ham, a little bit of cheese on there. I love Cubans, so I was like, I gotta do this.
Cubans
so
are my favorite, man.
They're so good. I don't like, how can you, it's everything in a sandwich that it needs to be. You have your savory, you have your sweet, you have your acid, you have your textural crunch, every salty, everything balances in a Cuban sandwich.
So good. And one more question before we get out of here that I didn't ask you, and I would feel like a complete and total jackass if I didn't ask you. So the Super Bowl was yesterday, which to anyone who was a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan and a Chiefs fan meant a football game, but to everybody else in America meant that we got to cook up some foods. So what was on the dinner plate or dinner table or lunch or just all day eats of Chef Drew?
I worked Sunday morning brunch service at Arts Farm where I work at, and then I came home and I actually made meatballs a couple days before, because it takes about, I'm talking scratch sauce, meatballs with ground pork and ground beef, my own mixture. It takes about 24 hours to get it all together, because you got to cook the meatballs, you got to cook the sauce, then you got to cook the sauce in the meatballs. So we did meatball subs, we did chips and queso, we did 4 different kinds of wings, because I mean it's Super Bowl Sunday, you got to have wings. We did a stinging honey garlic wing, traditional buffalo, barbecue, and then a dry rub. It's actually a brand named Sola Seasoning. They're based out in Florida. It's a Cajun rub. I've sworn by Chef Paul Berdone's Red Magic my whole life until I tried this seasoning, and I was like, listen, this is the first time in my life that I have ever said there's something better. So we did that too. And then desserts too. My daughters made an awesome pudding pie. Mm-hmm. We had whoopie pies, chips, dips, pretty much nothing, not a vegetable in sight. Just an unhealthy day that you could ever exist. So that was, yeah.
That's what you need though. Super Bowl, man. You get it a few days a year. You get to really just soak in on the non-vegetables. The only vegetable I feel like that's allowed at a Super Bowl party is a celery stick, and you're really only doing it to dip it in the blue cheese in between wing bites.
It's a vessel for dressing. That's
right.
All that is.
That's all it is. Well, dude, I enjoyed this conversation very much. I appreciate you very much for coming on the show, and keep it up, man. Like I love seeing the food. I don't know if I'm a foodie or what, but I enjoy looking at food on the internet and then burning ramen noodles. So thank you so much for what you're doing, man. I appreciate the conversation.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate what you were doing as well. I mean, without you, this website really wouldn't exist. So I appreciate that. And, thanks for having me. I'd love to come back and talk sometime about all the other fun stuff that's going to be happening here in the next couple months.
Let's do it. Man. And maybe we'll be allowed to see each other, and we'll do the show while eating wings and just eating. Cause I feel like that's the way to do it.
That's the one. That's the one. That's all that is the way.
That is the way. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed the show, and hopefully you're hungry now. Not so hungry that you just want to go and pig out, or maybe just do it. You know what? Screw it. It's the day after the Super Bowl is when we're recording this. I'm going to go upstairs and eat leftovers, because that's what I'm going to do. And join me if you want. But guys, go to thechefdrew.com. Go check it out. Drew's awesome. He's got some amazing pictures up there. He's doing some big things. Make sure you guys check that out. And if you enjoyed this episode, there are plenty more like them. Not as much food, so they won't be as delicious delicious. But there are other episodes at InovarePodcast.com. We're on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, pretty much every platform. I'm told we're on 10 different platforms. So if you listen to podcasts, there's a 99.9% chance that this podcast is on that platform that you listen to, unless you listen to your things on like MySpace Music or something. I don't think we're there yet. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this show. Until next time, see you.